Doctor Strange may be an arrogant guy who refuses to obey the rules of the library, but he's also one of the most brilliant characters around. For so long, Tony Stark was the genius of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But just because he had more tech doesn't necessarily mean he's smarter. In fact, there have been some instances where Doctor Strange might just have proven himself even smarter than Iron Man. As if being able to use the mystic arts wasn't impressive enough, let's take a look at some of Doctor Strange's most brilliant moments. Endgame. Doctor Strange is a stubborn guy, but he's smart enough to know when he needs a new plan. In the movie Avengers Infinity War, he flat out told Tony Stark and Peter Parker that he would happily let Thanos crush them into a fine red mist in order to protect the Time Stone. Well, at least he was honest about it. And yet, when push came to shove or Thanos came to punch, as the cause may be, Doctor Strange ended up giving up the Time Stone in order to protect Tony. No, Strange wasn't getting sentimental, he was making a massively strategic decision. He had looked into over 14 million possible futures to find a single one where the heroes win, and in that future he saw Tony making the ultimate sacrifice to save the day, a task which would have been a lot harder if Tony was the aforementioned fine red mist. So Doctor Strange had to quickly adapt his plan to not give up the Time Stone for whatever reason in order to save Tony and ultimately defeat Thanos during Avengers Endgame. He trusted in his own brilliance so much that he was even willing to lose out on 5 years on Earth in order to make the future he saw possible. Now that's commitment. Hard bargain. In his standalone movie, Doctor Strange found himself facing off against the dreadful interdimensional being known as Dormammu. Not only is Dormammu an ultra-powerful being, but he managed to confound many powerful characters who had been practicing the mystic arts way longer than Doctor Strange. Even the Ancient One wasn't able to figure out how to get Dormammu to get out of here and leave the Earth alone. Sure, Doctor Strange is incredibly powerful, and the Time Stone made him even more so. But still, he wouldn't have been able to defeat Dormammu if he couldn't outwit him, so that's exactly what he did. Figuring out how to torture the ruler of the Dark Dimension isn't easy, but Doctor Strange was smart enough to know that his true greatest weapon is his personality. Seriously, the idea of spending eternity dealing with Doctor Strange was so horrific that even Dormammu couldn't stand it. Sometimes being a hero isn't glamorous, but if you're smart enough, you can get the job done. Avengers Assemble. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is be aware of your own limitations. Of course, Doctor Strange likes to be the best at everything, but he's not foolish enough to think he can always save the day all on his own. He set up his friends for success during Avengers Infinity War by saving Tony Stark. But that wasn't the end of his contributions. During Avengers Endgame, the Thanos from 2014 traveled forward in time just to muck everything up after the decimation was finally undone. Classic Thanos. While the remaining heroes were all performing admirably, there was no way for them to hold off Thanos and his allies forever. Luckily, Doctor Strange came to the rescue and he brought some backup with his portals. We're just saying that when Tony was stuck on Titan following his fight with Thanos, he would have perished if not from a convenient rescue from Captain Marvel. Somehow we don't think Doctor Strange played any paper football when he ended up on Titan. Not only did he get himself and Peter Parker home safely, but he brought along pretty much all the other notable MCU heroes as well. Time Stone. The rules surrounding the Infinity Stones in the MCU have always been a little bit confusing. Yes, we know they're super powerful objects who've been around since pretty much the beginning of the universe, but their rules are a little tricky. Like, can you touch them with your bare hands or not? Guardians of the Galaxy made that look like a pretty terrible idea, but then in Endgame, the Ancient One just hands the Time Stone over to Bruce Banner without putting it in a container. Anyway, clearly we're not as smart as Doctor Strange because he seems to have figured it out almost instantly. Seriously, he totally mastered the Time Stone in a matter of minutes while Tony's experiments with the Mind Stone were nothing short of catastrophic. And even though Wong warned him about messing with the time-space continuum, it seems like there have been no negative effects from his experimenting. Well, not that we know of at least. It's always possible Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness might shake things up a bit. Shocking. Of course, even before Doctor Strange was a superhero, he was still, well, Doctor Strange, since that's his name and title. But he was a medical doctor, or more specifically, a top-notch surgeon. And from what we hear, going through medical is pretty difficult, let alone becoming world-renowned in your field. But not only did Doctor Strange save many patients, but he even operated on himself using his astral form. As if that wasn't impressive enough, he managed to operate on himself while fighting bad guys. Alright, that is definitely pretty impressive. Talk about being able to multitask. Lucian Astor used Doctor Strange's distracted state to launch an attack, so our hero had to think on his feet, or while floating in his astral form. When Christine Palmer shocked his physical form, Strange realized it had an effect on his astral form. Thinking quickly, he used it to his advantage, focusing the amplification on Lucian and frying his astral form. Apparently being a sorcerer isn't really compatible with the whole Hippocratic Oath thing. If he gets his medical license revoked, will he have to change his superhero name? Caecilius. Let's just talk about the fact that Doctor Strange mastered the mystic arts over the course of a single movie. Yes, he was a smart guy before he started training, but we somehow doubt any of his life experiences trained him for what to expect when he arrived at Kamar-Taj. Even after he learned a handful of spells, he didn't know much about any of the ancient and powerful relics like the Eye of Agamotto or the Cloak of Levitation. But somehow he was able to master them just moments after stumbling upon them. But what really shows off his skills is his fight against Caecilius. Let's not forget that Caecilius spent a long time training in the mystic arts and being mentored by the Ancient One. He no doubt knew all about the secrets of Kamar-Taj quite well, and yet Doctor Strange was still able to outmaneuver him using the Cloak of Levitation. We aren't sure how bright Caecilius actually is, but since he was able to pose a considerable threat to the Ancient One and other practitioners of the mystic arts, it seems like Strange's victory over him on his home turf is pretty significant. Memory. Having a wealth of knowledge to draw from definitely helps add to the appearance of intelligence, but let's not forget that another important aspect is how you acquire new knowledge. After all, simply not knowing something doesn't make you stupid. Doctor Strange wasn't an idiot before he learned how to use the mystic arts. It's really less of what you already know and more of how quickly and effectively you acquire new knowledge. And that's something Doctor Strange just so happens to be incredible at. Yeah, it's definitely cool when he starts hurling spells around, but having a photographic memory is also a really incredible talent. He manages to learn everything from the mystical and the mundane in mere moments. Of course, just having such a memory doesn't necessarily make you intelligent. But the way Doctor Strange uses it to study and acquire more information definitely shows off how intelligent he is. Tony is a smart guy too, but he's had a lot of luxuries in his life. What his parents lacked in emotional warmth, they made up for in giving him access to schools, money, and limitless technology. But when Doctor Strange arrived at Kamar-Taj, he pretty much had to learn everything about an entirely new world armed only with his wits. Projection. One of Doctor Strange's most impressive traits is definitely his ability to adapt to new and complex situations. When he first shows up to learn the mystic arts, the Ancient One isn't impressed with his arrogance or his subpar manners. So she does what any reasonable person would do and punches his soul right out of his body. Wow, that's an awesome trick. But it's more accurate to say she pushed his astral form out of his physical form, which was still pretty jarring. Being able to traverse the astral plane is definitely handy, but it's not quite as flashy as many of the other disciplines in the mystic arts. We know Tony Stark loved few things more than making a flashy entrance, but Doctor Strange is smart enough to see the value in more understated techniques. And let's not forget that Doctor Strange traveled to Kamar-Taj in the first place with the hope of fixing his hand and getting back to work as a surgeon. But being on the astral plane means having a limited ability to affect the physical world, so if anything, it's even more surprising that Doctor Strange realized it was a skill worth acquiring. Portal. Conjuring a portal may be difficult, but what about conjuring a portal when you're in danger of getting frostbitten after being abandoned on a mountaintop? Yeah, that's an entirely different situation, and it's one Doctor Strange found himself in thanks to the Ancient One. It was kind of like a trial by fire, but instead of fire, the element endangering his life was snow. Is the Ancient One a big Harry Potter fan? Because it kind of seems like she embraced the constantly endanger your students mantra of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Does anyone else feel the urge to sort the cast of the MCU into Hogwarts houses? The point is that Doctor Strange is not only smart enough to learn incredible new skills, but he can do so at a moment's notice and under intense, life-threatening pressures. And he was left with only his own mind and his sling ring to help him out. Lokis Fall. Remember back when Loki came to Earth during the Avengers? He was taken into custody before Thor intervened to bring him back to Asgard, which resulted in him tussling with Tony Stark and Captain America. Now, our heroes ended up saving the day from Loki and the Chitauri invasion, but it was a pretty close one, and there were a lot of heroes in action that day. But the next time Loki showed up, it was handled a lot more efficiently and with minimal property damage. In Thor Ragnarok, Loki and Thor visit Earth to find Odin, but Doctor Strange is several steps ahead of them. He confines Loki, rendering him powerless and having him fall over and over again just for good measure. It's a pretty big contrast to what a mess it was when Tony was in charge of handling Loki. Let's not forget that during Endgame, he managed to let Loki escape custody again when he and Scott Lang were trying to get the Tesseract for themselves. Loki can be a considerable foe, but there's no doubt Doctor Strange made taking care of him look effortless while Tony struggled considerably in that regard. Who do you think is the more intelligent Marvel movie character, Doctor Strange or Tony Stark? Take to the comments section to weigh in and then click on that subscribe button for more videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.